Okay, so today we are going to be testing a few different weightlifting shoes in comparison to the TYRForce ones. Right now I have Rom4s on, which are far from being my favorite weightlifting shoe. I actually really dislike Rom4s, mainly because they just don't fit me. I get a ton of heel slip. They're very narrow. Let's be real here. Like, no matter how you cut it, Rom4s are narrow. Even through break-in, which they do break in a decent amount, they still are probably one of the most narrow weightlifting shoes that you can get. But it's really the heel slip that kills these things for me. The actual like heel construction on Rom4s though is like one of the best out there. It's one of the most stable planted heels that you'll find on a weightlifting shoe. It's just a shame that they just don't fit me. But anyways, this is one of the pairs of shoes that we're gonna use. I'm gonna warm up in these ones. Then I'm gonna switch to Adipower ones. Those are like my favorite weightlifting shoes. One of my favorite weightlifting shoes. I don't want to say my favorite, but it's one of my favorite pairs of weightlifting shoes of all time. When everybody liked Rom2s, I liked Adipowers. And not to say Rom2s are bad, I just preferred Adipowers. And then I've got my Luzhao Junes. I've got Leistung 2s, the knit versions, and then I have the Force ones that I'll maybe save for the last complex. Today's complex is kind of meaty. It's 4 hang squat cleans into 1 jerk, so it's like a little bit of barbell cardio. The weight's gonna stay pretty constant throughout all of my sets. Maybe I'll go up a little bit, but it's not really gonna change that much. So I'm looking at starting about at 205, then maybe getting up to like 225. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. So I'm gonna start warming up. I'm gonna do all my warm-ups in the Rom4s. Hopefully warm up to these shoes a little bit more, and then we'll kick things off. Yeah, over the years I've really tried to like Rom4s, but I just can't get behind them. I really like the heel stability, but it's just the heel slip. The fit just not so good. But I'm very aware that there are people that are able to use these shoes at a very, very high level. And I'm glad that somebody out there is able to benefit from the way that these shoes are made. I don't know what it is about my heel, but it just does not stay inside these shoes. But just to give my comparisons, I feel better with the 3/4 inch heel. Just always have. That's the main difference. I think most people are gonna notice. The midfoot heel in the Rom4s is more stable. I don't think there's a more stable shoe compared to Rom4s, but just everything else about these compared to the Force ones, the Force ones are better, in my opinion. All in all, there's still people like Carlos Nazar putting up like insane weight in Rom4s. So take whatever I say with a grain of salt. Like a lot of things with shoes, Olympic weightlifting shoes especially, it's all preference. Okay, we're going every 4 minutes. Terrible jerk. Absolutely terrible jerk. Those 4 cleans, they really take it out of you. I had no legs for the jerk. If there's anything positive I can say about Rom4s, it's that when you land, they really suck you down into the ground. Super planted shoes. Considering how hard that was, I don't think I'm gonna go up. We'll just move as best as possible and call it good. Adipower time. My goats. I could have sworn they used to make weightlifting shoes like a half size big. Alright, these are a 10. And they still fit me on the large side or the longer side compared to what I'm wearing now, which is a 10.5, pretty much everything. They just feel so good to me. Flexible, they fit well, they look cool. Grip is better than I remember. Yeah, I kicked myself in the ass for not getting the white ones back in the day. Better jerk that time, for sure. I feel more warmed up for the cleans. The forefoot on these is very flexible, so you have to be a little bit more aware of that. But I think it's more of a fluid jumping feeling. And then when I'm lowering to go into the next one, I feel like I can get back to my toes easier in the Adipowers than, I mean, definitely the Rom4s, because the Rom4s kind of feel like your toes are lifted up. Okay, now I've got my Leistungs on. Historically, never been my favorite. So if you watched my previous reviews on Leistungs, I just have not really loved them. This was the Leistung one. I'm not so sure I ever did the two. The one had just the boa, and then they included the laces with the boa, with the black ones, and then they made like this like kind of I don't know if you want to call it like knit mesh version, and this is like the last version of the Leistung. So these have a 1-inch heel, and you obviously you can tell right away. Midfoot contact on these is not bad. The one thing that sucks about these is, it might just be the age of them, is the grip is very bad on these. Maybe that rubber's hardened out a little bit. It's just not that soft anymore, making the grip pretty terrible. These have never been my favorite, so if this lift goes really bad, actually not too bad. Felt like I was able to catch in a pretty good position. I do notice that going to my toes makes my heel and midfoot kind of want to disconnect a little bit, or feel more disconnected. But otherwise, I think that could have been a lot worse, jumping up from a 3/4 inch heel to a full 1-inch heel. People had asked me to compare it to Rom2s, and I went to my mom's house. That's where I have some of my shoes. My Rom2s are there. They're brand new, 2 pairs. And I took them, and I was like, do I really want to tarnish these shoes, these brand new Rom2s that are worth a lot of money, to do a review? And so I put them right back in the box, and I'm gonna abstain from using Rom2s or comparing. But I mean, most everybody's done Rom2s. I've worn Rom2s for years. All the ones that I had, I sold, and they're still on the world stage for a reason. They're like really good. I never thought they had the best grip, but I mean, that's like really the only flaw with them. Maybe the straps can be a little long. All right, here's the loose 1-inch heel. Slightly big on me, but very comfortable. Easily the best set. These shoes they're just so good. For 200 bucks, you really can't do any better. And let's be real, these were all over the Olympics too. So they're proven for the world stage. They come in at 200 bucks. They fit great. Got a bunch of different colors. Doesn't look like they're gonna let up on coming out with new colors anytime soon. The grip isn't like the best. It's good. It's better than any of the other shoes that I tried today. Maybe not as good as the Rom4s, but the profile and the pitch are like the easiest to get used to. My feet just settle into these. There's no large rises or falls. There's maybe a little bit right before you hit the balls of your feet, just a little bit, but it's not distracting. And it always feels like I can get a really solid ground feel with these shoes. And then every time I let down the bar with that, I went back to my hang. I felt like completely grounded and just ready to go. Whereas all the other shoes, I kind of had to think about it for a second. I know this isn't a video about the Lus, and I've done plenty of them, but man, if you somehow can't afford Force ones, then, you know, even getting Lus, you're not missing that much. Now for what everybody came to see. Now that I've switched between all of these non-plated shoes and I'm going to a carbon plate shoe, I'm curious to see if I will notice the difference in my lifts jumping around. Okay, yeah, we have really wide toe box here. By far the best grip, like not even close. These things, easily the best grip. I wouldn't say heel stability is the best. Not compared to some of the other ones. The Lus, the Rom4s, both feel more stable in terms of like just the heel construction and feel, but like it's not like these don't feel stable. It's just like in the midfoot of the shoe, you really notice that the other shoes have a more solid heel throughout, whereas on the Force ones, you do know that there's the gap there. Like if I really tried, I can like flex that gap a little bit. But now we have our carbon plate, so let's see how that does. Man, the grip is so good. Ooh. Ooh. Okay, so you definitely, or I definitely could feel the difference of having a plate there. So where I noticed it the most was the bar was getting much more height on my cleans than any of the other ones. The other ones I felt like I was catching like pretty much like right under the bar. Whereas these ones, I felt like the bar would go up and it would come down on top of me every time. Whereas I don't think I changed much of my clean. The only thing I really changed was the shoes. And then you could probably have already told, but the jerk was far better on that one than any of my other ones. It just went way higher, caught in a better position, totally locked out, no drama, nothing. So there you go. Does the carbon plate work? I think so. I think it's very noticeable, especially coming from those shoes that don't have carbon plates. That's something that does. Now, total stability is kind of debatable depending on the shoes that we're going against. Grip, number one, for sure. Not even a question. The grip on these is amazing. Ground feel, getting back down into position also felt really good. I'd say it's kind of a tie between these and the Lus. Like, I think I was able, after every rep, to get back to the right position, or what felt like the right position to me every time in the Lus. Where these, I did have to think maybe I need to ground my toes a little bit better. But every time I jumped, it was like, whew, bar just flew. So I would say the jerk went best in these for sure. Probably half of the cleans went better in these compared to the loos. But either way you go, you really cannot go wrong. If you want to spend the extra money on the Force Ones, I think it's gonna be worth it. You get that old school Adistar look, maybe not one for one, but it's a pretty close replica from afar. And then you get the assistance of having a carbon plate, which in my testing, by just feel, actually does work.